I went through a period this summer of reading just psychological thrillers, and normally I'm a very girly, cute, romance, woman finding happiness and her purpose in life kind of gal when it comes to books. I don't really know what happened. I went to Barnes & Noble one day. I was like, oh, let me go look around for a book. I picked up a Freida McFadden book. I was hooked. Somehow over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, I've read about 14 Freida McFadden books. So today I thought it'd be really fun to actually go back and tier rank all of the books that I read because I consumed them in such a short period of time. My opinions on them are very all over the place. The ones that I love a lot, and the ones that I hate, I have much to say. And also note, this is going to be spoiler free except for one book because I really need to talk about that book. In true tier list fashion, we're going to make our categories. So for our S tier, we're gonna have I wanna talk about this with everyone I know. If it's something so good, then I have to share it with people, and that is what I was doing when I was reading these books. I was talking about it with my friends, I was talking about it with my siblings, and I was talking about it with my coworkers, which is kind of all the people that I have in my life. And by friends, I mean like one friend. Even if they hate it, it will not shock my worldview. I'll just think that they have bad taste. Thoroughly slayed, which is unfortunately also very true to how I speak. I am having a crisis right now about using the word slay so much, and I'm like, am I the only one still using this word? And am I just using this word because my vocabulary is kind of bad and I don't have anything else to contribute in conversations? And then could have been better. These are books that are good and I did enjoy reading them, but they're not great. I see the potential, but no, this is me being kind. WTF did I just read? Which is self-explanatory. I'm gonna try to go in order of how I read the books, but I can't really remember exactly. So we're just gonna start by like how I think I read the books. The first book is The Housemaid is Watching. So you might be like, why is that the first book you read? Because this is the third book in a series, and that's because I didn't realize it was the third book in the series until I was done with the book. When I was being introduced to the characters, I was like, oh yeah, this is giving mystery. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's because all the characters had a background that I didn't know about. This book is about Millie and her husband, Enzo. It's about a wife, a husband, and a kid that moved to this new neighborhood, which is a pretty affluent neighborhood. They have a really big, nice house, and they have neighbors, as you do. One of their neighbors is this lady who seems so kind and nice, and she's really pretty, but she's a little bit too flirty with the main character's husband. And then the other neighbor is just this neurotic almost neighbor who like watches people through a peephole and is always keeping an eye on everyone in the street. She has her own son too, and she's like really protective over her son. The tense woman across the street gives Millie and her family like a bit of a warning. You shouldn't have moved here. Things aren't going the way that Millie wants, and she's like, something is going on here. Oh, maybe she might have 2 kids. I think she has a daughter and a son. This story is really about like family secrets, like what they're hiding from each other, what the kids are going through in this new environment. It's kind of also about like the mom and dad's communication or lack of communication. The actual conflict of the book and what happens, I was looking at it and it wasn't super clear to me. It honestly reminded me of a story that I wrote in the 5th grade about a psychological thriller thing. It's like when you don't know what bad things can happen, so you have a bad thing but it's kind of like super vague. That's how I feel like the conflict in the story was. So it's an interesting read, and it was definitely what got me into reading the rest of Freida McFadden books, but I wouldn't say that was the most hard-hitting. And because of that, I am going to put it in could have been better. Next, I read The Coworker by Freida McFadden. This book is about a girl named Dawn and her coworker named Natalie. Dawn is just an office worker. She's a little bit odd in her actions. I remember she really liked turtles, so she had a lot of like turtle statues. Because she was a little bit different from her coworkers, she kind of clashed with them just a little bit. Dawn is usually really punctual, so it doesn't make sense for her to suddenly disappear. No one is that shocked by it besides Natalie. As we go deeper in the story, you just start to learn more about Natalie and Dawn's dynamic, the rest of the office, what was really happening, and like who really was with Dawn that night that she disappeared. This story was really entertaining. The entire time you don't know who the bad person really is because you're reading it from one character's perspective, Natalie's perspective. I definitely did not predict a single thing. It would have been too hard because there was so much background that is revealed to us later in the story. This was a good book. It kept me on my toes. It was very entertaining. Kept me on the Freida McFadden train. and because of that, I think I want to put it in the it could have been better. And after saying all that, it's because it didn't slay. Yeah, I mean, should I move it up a category? The Coworker. It was a little bit silly, but I did like the ending. Okay, never mind. I'm changing it. It literally slayed. It did slay. It slayed. Because even until the last couple of pages, there's still something new to discover about the entire story and about the characters. I'm pretty sure the next book that I read was Never Lie by Freida McFadden. This book is about these two newlyweds named Trisha and Ethan who are house shopping. They're scheduled to visit this house one time, and this house is like, I think it's in New York, but it's in the middle of nowhere. You have to drive far to get it. When they're going there, it's already snowing pretty hard. Once they get there, they realize the real estate agent was not there, and now the snow has gotten so bad that it is too late for them to leave. So they're stuck. And the house that they're at, that they're contemplating buying, is a manor that belonged to the psychiatrist named Dr. Adrian Hale, who went missing a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of mystery around this house and what happened to her, because they never found her body. And then what do they find in that house? And by they, I mean Trisha. The husband is kind of like, one of the things with Freida McFadden books is that the husband and the males are always so nonchalant. It really got on my nerves, because like, your wife is afraid for a reason. You're in a house where a lady went missing, it's abandoned, and things start moving, or there are weird things in the house, and you're like, let's go sleep in the lady who went missing's bed because it's comfier than the guest room. I don't get it. All of the husbands in every one of these books, I don't remember one good man. They all pissed me off. If I was dealing with someone like that, that would be my thriller. Like, the husband being this bad, that is my horror story. But anyway, Trisha is like snooping around because my girl is curious. My girl wants to know what's up. And while she is looking around, she finds an abandoned room in the house that has all of these cassettes, like audio tapes. And the audio tapes have transcripts from the psychiatrist's therapy sessions. As she listens to tape, she learns more about the patient's stories, but she also learns about Dr. Hale and what's going on in her life, which might have led to her disappearance. But yeah, as she's listening, she uncovers more things and she's able to piece things together. This book was brilliant. 100%, 1,000,000%. I'm putting this in. I want to talk about this with everyone I know because I want to talk about it with you. I want to tell you everything that happened in this book, but I can't. Please, if you read one book from this video, please read this book. I think this book is so smart in comparison to her other books that I've talked about so far. Like, there was no way for me to guess anything that was happening. These things that I could not predict would just be thrown into a mix, like sub stories or history stuff that I would not, there's no way I would have known. But this book is different in that what is revealed, like, it's still very twisty, there's no way to predict it, but the way that it is revealed, it has you thinking one thing the entire time, and she comes in and she makes you go in a different direction. And I think it was so cool. This book, I liked it so much that I was walking with my friend to New York City, and we had like a 30-minute walk to our next destination to get dinner. And I explained to them the entire plot of the book, and it took the full 30 minutes. So it was so good. The next book is The Teacher. And all that I can say about this book is that even when watching Pretty Little Liars, and we had Ezra and Arya, I hated it. I did not like it. I thought it was really creepy. So this book, I feel like that is enough to explain what this book is about. But essentially, there's this girl, her name is Addie, and she is a high school student. The year before, she got this beloved teacher at this school fired. It was like implied that they were having a relationship, and then the school had to let him go. The main character is two other teachers at the school who are married to each other. Their names are Eve and Nate. And Addie is one of the students in Nate's English class, because Nate is an English teacher. And then Addie is also one of the students in Eve's math class. Eve does not like her because Eve is friends with that teacher that Addie got fired. But Nate, you know, he's like a nice guy. He's also a teacher that everybody loves, and he's super attractive. And so he doesn't really discriminate against students. He treats Addie like he would any other student. I think it is a good book. These characters in the book all have secrets that they're hiding. It reveals itself in an interesting way. Originally, I had it in I see the potential but no, and I think I had it there because of the student-teacher relationship, the nature of those things. But I want to put it in literally slayed. The next book that we're going to talk about is The Inmate. It is about this girl named Brooke who is returning to her hometown after a decade of not living there. She works as a nurse practitioner, I believe. She needs a new job. She has a 10-year-old son. He's a cutie. There aren't a lot of places that are trying to hire her. So the place that she gets a job is at a maximum security prison in the area, which would be fine. Except her ex that she put in that prison is there. Crazy. So she starts working at this prison. The reason that he was put into his prison is something that happened when she was back in high school. And she told her side of the story at that time, and he was convicted. But now, 10 years later, she's like, he is so nice. He's being so nice. What if I misremembered that night? Because that could have happened too, right? It's like really hard to remember details and faces. She was already really freaked out. So she's going through those thoughts. What actually happened that night? Did I remember it right? And did I put the wrong person in jail? And at the same time, she's talking to another person from that night who survived. So it's like going between these two guys. Anyway, I feel like that's all I should say. I feel like if I say anything more, that's a spoiler, so I'm gonna stop it there. I also think my girl Brooke is a little bit dumb. Like, I like Trisha from Never Lie, and I feel like I would act the same way as Trisha, maybe. But Brooke, I would never do what Brooke did. I say throw them all in prison. I would not play with the idea of like, is this guy the murderer or is this guy the murderer? Put them all there. Don't think about it. Do not come back to this town no matter what. Like, I would never do what she did. Because of that, I had problems with this book because I was like, girl, you dummy, why would you do that? So I am going to put this book in could have been better. Yeah, I think that is a good place for it. The next book we're going to talk about is the most recent one that I finished, Brain Damage by Freida McFadden. This book follows Dr. Charlie McKenna, who is a dermatologist. So girl is really good at her job, really is making a lot of money, but she doesn't have a lot of friends. One day when she's in her apartment, she gets shot in the head. And that alone is like too much. Yeah. This book was really difficult to read. So then when we're reading from her perspective, we're going back and forth from when now she's in rehab, and then we're also going back in the past to see what happened leading up to this event. I used to work as a CNA at a rehab center, so this book was really hard for me to read. I think just like with the senses, when they were talking about the descriptions of anything, I could picture it, but I also felt like I could smell it. This was such an unfortunate reality. I know it's a book. You're trying to figure out who shot her and what was the reasoning, while also like seeing her get better and seeing her like current date interactions with the people who are coming to visit her, with people in the rehab center, and like her just coming to her own senses about like what could have happened that night. This is the first book that I'm going to put in the section I see the potential but no. Even though the setup was good, I think that it was pretty obvious what was happening. For the next book, we're gonna stay in the same vein of like this memory loss kind of situation, and we're gonna talk about Do You Remember by Freida McFadden. This book is about a girl named Tess, and every morning she wakes up with no memory of the last couple of years. I don't remember how many years, but it's to a point where she doesn't recognize her face because she has gotten older, she looks different, and every morning her husband gives her a letter to read that explains her life so she can feel a little bit more familiar with things. But on that particular morning, she gets a text message on her phone, and it says, "Don't trust the man who's saying that he's your husband." As I said, all of these books have one similar thread, that the men suck. She's trying to figure out what's happening, but she resets every morning and she can't remember. So how is she supposed to piece together things? If anyone has seen the movie Blink Twice, you could think about that when it comes to this book. But anyway, this is a nightmare situation, and this book was pretty obvious. Like, I didn't feel like I was being bamboozled. I kind of knew what was happening. The thing that I didn't know is how she would be able to get out of the situation. Because of that, I want to say I see the potential, because that is a very terrible scenario to be in. but it was not my favorite book of the ones that I've read. There have been better. Next, we are going to talk about the book that I hate the most out of all of these books. Like, none of my criticisms for the other ones come close to my hatred for this one. The Surrogate Mother by Freida McFadden. And I won't even waste our time with this one. It is going in WTF did I just read. I hate everything about this book. I felt like I was being gaslit alongside the main character in this book. No, this is not a psychological thriller. This is just a stupid man. I was not amused. I was not entertained at all. In this story, what happens is that there's a lady named Abby. She has been trying to be pregnant for so many times, but she has infertility issues, and she has a husband named Sam. And Abby and Sam are very in love with each other. Sam, I think, is a professor at a school, and Abby works at a corporate job doing something, I don't remember. Throughout the book, we are told that Sam loves Abby so much, and obviously he also wants a baby, but they've done all the treatments and they've tried adoption and it hasn't worked. They are like kind of at a loss for what to do, so they've kind of accepted that they won't be able to have a child until Abby's personal assistant at her job named Monica offers to be the surrogate mother to Abby's. Obviously, in fiction, assistants have like a bad reputation. They have a bad stereotype in fiction. That's already a red flag. But it is just worse because originally, like, Sam is opposed to it. He's like, no, that's kind of weird, let's not do it. Abby convinces him like, oh no, it's a good idea. And then Monica also convinces Abby, saying like, oh, I just want the best for you, like I just want to help you. Oh, by the way, all of these things are spoilers. I'm gonna spoil this one. They start going through the process, but then Abby starts getting a bad feeling. Maybe I made the wrong decision letting my secretary, who I barely know, carry a child without like going through a proper institution. Guess what? Yeah, it was a dumb decision because this girl is freaking obsessed with her husband, and it's so bad because the husband is a dumbass. Like, okay, it was so infuriating to read things like the assistant would go to her doctor appointments to make sure that the baby's healthy, and she would invite the husband along but not Abby. She would on purpose put the wrong times in Abby's calendar so she would miss the appointment, and then the husband would be with her during these like intimate family moments while the wife is not there, and he didn't see a problem with that. That got me throughout the entire book, that he let all these things happen. He let this personal assistant give him a nickname, call him Sammy, that's like so cute, so intimate. He let the personal assistant say our baby, like her, the personal assistant, and his baby, and didn't say anything. He didn't freaking blink. How can you like forget about your wife because there's a baby in the picture? This woman is a freak. But yeah, Monica's being really weird. She was like keeping all the baby tests, baby recordings. At the beginning she was kind of normal, but obviously throughout the book she gets a little bit crazy, and then she starts being like more controlling over the baby, and she starts being meaner to Abby. Abby is suffering mentally because this girl is trying to steal her baby, and her husband doesn't even realize. If anyone ever does something like this to me in the future, no surrogate baby, no nothing, but like you're with a partner and they don't believe you and they're not listening to you, and you're trying to tell them, hey, this is weird, and they just brush it off again and again, and it ends up that you're right, that would piss me off to no end. But in short, I really hate that book, and the reason I hate it isn't even because of the crazy girl. It's because of the husband that doesn't believe his wife. And I feel like the entire book could have been prevented if he just actually loved her like he claimed that he did. Yep. Okay, next book. There are 3 books. Do Not Disturb, Want to Know a Secret, The Wife Upstairs, Do You Remember? 4. Those are 4 books. That, to me, the plot lines kind of mix together because I read all of them like very close to each other. So there is a YouTuber, her name is April Masterson. She starts getting hate comments on her YouTube channel. It seems to be someone that actually knows her secrets. She lives in a community with her husband, who is away working for most of the book, and then her young son. They live in a community of like other rich snobby people. The husbands are all away at work, and then the women are super like gossipy, like to be at all the sports games, and like to flex on each other and like talk about each other behind their back. A new lady moves in. The conflict is mainly between April and this new lady. Little conflicts going on in this town, and trying to figure out, is April a good person or is the neighbor a good person? And it was an okay book. It wasn't like anything too special. It just didn't resonate that much with me, and for that I'm putting it in I see the potential, but no. The next one we're going to talk about is The Wife Upstairs. A woman and a man, they love each other. There's a lot of relationship drama going on in these books, but then the woman, Victoria, gets into a terrible accident and she falls down the stairs, and now she is wheelchair bound and she needs assistance in her everyday life to be able to do things. So her husband hires this other girl named Sylvia to work in the house. This book was okay. Yeah, with these relationship books, I think we can all immediately tell who is the problem in these books. There's no mystery behind it. It's kind of just at that point figuring out what went down. I see the potential, but no. Moving on, we are going to talk about Ward D. Ward D was a good book. I thought the concept was terrifying but so exciting. Ward D is about a medical student named Amy who has to spend the night in the psychiatric ward. It's an overnight shift, which would be fine, but similar to the inmate, her best friend, or her old best friend, is in that psychiatric ward. So she's really scared to be there overnight. She does not want to run into her best friend. This is Ward D, the hospital's inpatient mental health unit. The issue here, and why I think this is such a good book, is that once she's there, it's really not right to get out. Like, think about it. When you're a student, you just want to make people happy, especially someone like pursuing a medical career. These are things that you have to do even if it's uncomfortable or even if you're scared. This is a rotation she has to go through. There is a way out. There's like an emergency door that you can open and then you would be able to exit. Part of this story, what I think makes it so good is like what signifies enough of an emergency for you to evacuate, and would you be able to like make that call? Because I definitely don't think I would be. Oh, also, once you're in there, cell phone service is really hard to get, so she wasn't able to like text her friends outside. It was such a good book, such a good read. I really recommend it. Never Lie and Ward D, you should read them. One by One by Freida McFadden. To me, it felt all over the place. It's basically a bunch of friends go on a trip together, but the husband and wife are already having problems before they even go on the trip. The husband and wife are not in a good place in their relationship. Some of the people they're close to, like, their friends, but other people are like partners of their friends, so like you don't really know them super well. And then when they're driving to the cabin they're supposed to stay at, the car breaks down. They have to go there by foot. There's one person leading, but slowly they start losing their group of people one by one. I put it in, I see the potential, but no. I see how it could have been good, but to me it just felt too random. There were so many things happening and it just didn't make a ton of sense. I don't feel like there was a good reasoning for the ending that was tied clearly throughout the entirety of the story. We're on the last two books, Do Not Disturb and The Perfect Son. Do Not Disturb is about a lady named Quinn who is on the run after killing her husband. Her husband and her did not have a good relationship. Now she's on the run and she is staying at this motel called the Baxter Motel, and that motel itself is very suspicious. There's one room that the owner of the motel will not let anyone inhabit. The story is two parts. Think about her and the crime she just committed, and then also this motel and what's happening in this motel. And it was a pretty good book. The ending to me was like, I didn't love it, but I still want to rank it higher than some of the other books on this list. This is the order I would put this: The Inmate, then Do Not Disturb, then The Housemaid is Watching. This last book is called The Perfect Son, and originally I had this book pretty high up. I think I'll put it in, I feel like I like this triangular look. The Perfect Son is about a lady named Erica who has two children. Her son Liam has always had issues, so she's always been a little bit worried for him. It's kind of that thing about like you can try to raise your child as best as you want, but you can't control them, especially when they do bad things. A high school girl in that neighborhood that they're in disappears, and then Erica finds out that her son Liam was the last person to see that girl alive, and that was also his crush. Kind of about a mother's trust in her son and how unwavering that is. That's all I'm gonna say. This is my Freida McFadden tier list. These books were so fun to read. Now when I go to Barnes & Noble, I look at the Freida McFadden table and I'm like, I've already read all of these books, which is crazy. So thank you, Freida McFadden, for reinstilling my love for reading. Thank you for watching. This was so much fun. Okay, that's it. Bye bye.